So we're nearly there. But what about privacy? So we asked a question to a few lawyers, and there was the best answer came from this one. So we'll now have a 5-minute presentation on privacy and privacy issues. Thank you.
This is the mic.
Yeah.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Antoon Dierick. I'm a lawyer at DLA Piper in Brussels. I see some people falling asleep already with the word legal and lawyer, so I'll make this relatively quick. A lot of companies are coming to us. I'm working, as a background, I'm working at the IPT department. I do a lot of information technology, and in that capacity I deal with a lot of clients who ask how they can optimize the value of the vast amounts of data, especially big companies, but also startups doing something in the big data industry, how they can optimize the value of all the data that they hold. And then, of course, we as lawyers, we have to make them aware of the several legal challenges that exist. You see some of them on this slide. For example, if you would be intending to analyze your data to target certain customers with commercial messages, you have to take it into account the rules on direct marketing, spam legislation. If you want to change your price based on the profile that you built of your customers based on data analytics, you have to take into account anti-discrimination legislation, consumer legislation, etc. A lot of companies use cloud. There are legal aspects on the use of cloud as well, and many other things. And one of the big legal issues is, of course, the legislation on data protection, privacy legislation, of which you see some cornerstones, some fundamentals on this slide. And what we see is that a lot of the fundamentals, the key essentials of data protection laws are really a bit in conflict with big data analysis. To give you a concrete example, for example, under privacy laws, you have to clearly inform a data subject, so the natural person of whom you collect information. You have to inform them of the purpose for which you are collecting his data. Whereas we see that a lot of companies that come to us, they say, well, we want to collect as much as information as we can, and what we'll do with it, so the purpose of that collection and processing, well, we'll see based on that data. So there you see a conflict between the legal requirement and what businesses want to do. Another legal principle is, of course, that you have to have a legal basis. For example, one of the main legal bases is obtaining the consent of a data subject. So the natural person, you go and ask him, for example, by clicking a privacy policy, for his consent to obtain his data and to process it for the purposes that you want. That, for example, is a bit conflicting with companies who want to browse the web, do screen scraping, look for all the available information, for example, on social networks. There you can ask yourself the question, is there a legal basis for that company to start analyzing my data that I, as an individual, have put online, but I've never given my consent to that company to analyze that data? So these are the kind of things that we, explain to our customers, but where we also try to find answers in practice to let big data projects go ahead. And one of the things we have developed, which is, I think, quite innovative, but also, well, very useful for the clients, we think, is we have devised a kind of approach where companies set a general strategy, their risk appetite, how they want to process data, which we then translate into a policy. It's more a concrete document which says how the company should process data, which data they use, for which purposes they will use it, etc., to which entities they will transfer it. Will they transfer it outside the European Economic Area, which is subject to stringent laws, etc., etc. And then one step further, we translate that into operating procedures written for businesses, which takes the form of a real manual that can be used for business units to enroll concrete big data projects. How do we do that? Establishing that policy, establishing those manuals. We have developed a risk assessment tool. It's a very long list of various legal issues for which each of the legal issues we give several options going from very, very compliant with the law to a bit more looking for the edges of the law, what is reasonably speaking allowed under the law. So, and we score each of those options. So you can put a big data project in the tool that we've developed, and then you'll see at the end of the tool you'll see a score of your big data project, which states it's not exact science, of course, but it states your average legal compliance with data protection and other laws. So that's an example of how the tool looks like. So if you're interested or have any other comments or questions on that, please feel free to contact me. And thanks very much for your attention.